Hi, folks. Tom McHale again, editor of American Handgunner magazine. We are here at the annual SHOT Show in Las Vegas, and I was just taking care of some administrative chores, and guess who walked by the booth? Mr. Alan Gottlieb. I hope you all know who he is. Alan founded the Second Amendment Foundation just a couple years ago, right?
50 now.
50. Boy, time flies when you're working hard,
It's really hard to
right?
believe.
So, you will not remember this, but I met you at a small gathering. I think it was at an NRA meeting at the time. This is how long ago it was. A group of gun bloggers, and they were the very first gun bloggers ever, had arranged this thing, and you spoke to us for a while on all the gun rights issues going on at the time.
I remember that, yes.
Kind of inspired everybody, so that's kind of what introduced me to the SAF a long time ago.
So you go back with us a while. That's great.
I've got a few years under the belt, too, so yeah, I do. So it's an absolute pleasure to speak to you today. You folks are busy. You have always been busy. How many hours have you spent in courtrooms, do you think, in the past 50 years?
A lot. I mean, we've done over 260 cases.
Yeah.
But we have now, I think it's 59 going on at one time.
Yeah.
And we've never had anything like that before.
That's insane.
But I guess going back historically, when we founded the foundation in 1974, one of our goals was one day to get a case to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Right.
Which was a pipe dream. And the truth of the matter is that at that time, there was no case law. There was nothing to really build a foundation on. People don't realize that back in 1974, the only real victory there was dealing with the individual right to keep and bear arms was not a federal case. It was a state case. It's the Supreme Court of the state of Oregon. And guess what? It didn't deal with a gun. It dealt with a knife.
Yeah.
Where they knocked out an anti-knife law saying that the person had a right to keep and bear arms to defend himself with a knife.
Right.
And that was about all that was there. And we started these legal conferences, scholar conferences around the country. The first one at Boston University, to decide what we need to do to build a foundation. So if you ever went to court and you filed a brief, you could have things that you could cite.
Right.
And so we started out working on what needed to be discussed, law reviews that needed to publish articles, popular culture magazines even that talk about gun rights, historical journals, things of that nature. And then we held a very important second scholars conference, or actually it wasn't the second, but one a few years later at the University of Arizona Law School in Tucson. And that one we had about 60 attorneys and historians, not all of which were pro-gun. On that one we invited some anti-gun attorneys as well, because we wanted to check what we've already accomplished and see where our weaknesses were. And at that one, I remember it really stood out at me was the dean of the University of Florida Law School, who was a 14th Amendment incorporation expert, who was explaining to us about you're never going to get any of these laws overturned because the Second Amendment was never incorporated to the 14th Amendment to make it applicable to the states. So you can only sue the federal government. You don't really have great laws at this point to attack. But Washington, D.C. is not a state, and it had a handgun ban or a functional firearm ban, period.
Right.
And so the case, while it wasn't a SAF case, our attorney, Alan Gottlieb, argued that case and did it. And we did it. SAF did a very important amicus brief in that case, which actually I think got us the fifth vote to win it. And then, of course, the day we knew we were going to win it, and the day we won that case, we filed McDonald versus Chicago.
Yep.
And that was the one that incorporated the Second Amendment through the 14th, making it applicable to all the states, opened everything up, not just for us, but for everybody to file against all these anti-gun laws across the country. And that's why now I think we have 59 current cases going on.
Okay, there is a lot to unpack in what you just said, and I want to pause because I want people to understand the importance of these points. One, if we were relying today on established case law over a knife case, can you imagine the media and government drumbeat of, oh, well, that's a knife case. That has nothing to do with guns, Guns are for hunting, right? Okay, so that's point one. Point two that I want people to understand is you kind of walked through it of how much detailed planning is required to set together all of these building blocks to get to a point where we need to be, which McDonald, was kind of, we're not done, obviously, but some of the icing on that cake, right? Okay, we've got the keep and bear arms part kind of inked now in some degree of case law, right? And I guess the third point, I got to brag on you guys. I don't know that people realized that we have the Second Amendment Foundation to thank for McDonald. A lot of people take credit for that victory, but it was this group right here.
That was totally our case.
Yeah.
And the anti-gunners argued that we shouldn't win that case because if we won it, it would open the floodgates to challenge all these gun laws. Mm-hmm. Well, they were right.
Yeah. In a good way.
Yeah. So it's been something approximately 80% of the case law in the courts that have been won defending Second Amendment rights have been won by the Second Amendment Foundation and/or our attorneys.
Right.
So we're really proud of our track record. So for 50th anniversary, we've really accomplished an awful lot in 50 years.
Yeah, we're gonna do a piece in American Handgunner and just go walk through some of the highlights over the past 50 years because. Boy, you guys have just had a lot of successes, and we have a lot to be thankful for. And
it's been a lot of fun.
Where we've gotten to, So
yeah. I like winning.
Yeah, exactly. Well, winning begets winning, right? Or I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems to be happening in this case. So.
Well, let's hope it keeps happening because there's still a lot more cases we need to get to the Supreme Court. You have to deal with the 18 to 20-year-old being able to own, use, purchase and carry firearms for self-protection. We have, the so-called bans on magazines capacity, the bans on so-called assault weapons. We've got bans on, where you can carry the gun now, sensitive places that we still have to get back to the Supreme Court. Yep. So there's an awful lot of work still left to be done. Luckily, we've got of these 59 cases we're dealing with. We have a number of these going on in various circuits around the country that are going to percolate up to the Supreme Court.
Okay, good. Yeah, I mean these are big issues. I think we'd all like to see some consistency from the federal government.
Yes.
You're 18 years old, you can go to war and get killed, but you lose. You don't have full gun rights. You have some rights, but which is it, right?
But the big thing is we are winning, and a lot of gun owners don't realize it because these cases take time. And like I always like to say, a right delayed is a right denied, and a lot of us want, hey, well, how come we didn't win it right now?
Right.
Unfortunately, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of time. It's frustrating. It's costly. It costs a lot of dollars to do it. But we are winning, and the other side knows it, and they're not happy about it, and that makes me happy.
Yep. So, well, what can people do to support your efforts right now? If they want to get inspired, they want to help win in the courtroom.
Well, the best thing they can do is go to our website at saf.org, saf.org, and you can join and donate there. But I like to encourage people not to just do that, but take a look at the legal action in the court cases. It's really very, very impressive. And take a look as well at our public information things that we have on there and our news releases in general, because it talks about a lot what's happening, what we're up against all over the country.
Right.
And it's a great educational resource.
Right. Well, I tell you, I tell people, if you want to know where your money's going when you're supporting a cause, you will know from Second Amendment Foundation. Yeah. I think one of the things that you all do a very good job of is keeping people informed of what's happening. I get a lot of email updates. I know what you're doing. I know what the victories are. I know what's next. So
that's good. Sometimes we have a hard time having the time to promote ourselves and our victories. We're so busy out there fighting in the trenches that we don't let people know what we're doing. So I'm glad to hear you say that. It makes me feel better. We're getting better at that, I think.
Well, you know what else I'm going to tell you, and you didn't ask for this, but I'm going to share it. It is so important for you to do that because that gives people like me ammunition to share with others who are not in this industry, who are not at SHOT Show, who are not gun owners. Say, hey, did you know? Did you know this? Did you know that? I mean, it's vital information that helps us keep others informed and up to speed on what's really going on.
Well, you do a very good job in your magazines as well, doing that. And I've been an avid reader of your magazines now for 50 years.
Oh no, it's not that old, is it?
Yeah, I know a lot about your history and in publishing. I've dealt with people on staff for 50 years, 50 years over a lot of time.
Yeah, we're 75, 76. Oh my gosh, I embarrassed myself.
I'm forgetting right now at the top of my head your founder's name, who's the original publisher. But he was quite an interesting character in the old days.
Yep, there's an interesting history. We'll have, what we're going to do? We'll have to do a story on that in Handgunner. Our magazine roots are quite, we'll say, interesting. So things could have turned out a lot differently. But, well, good. Was there anything else you want our viewers and listeners to know?
No, but thanks for helping to get
Okay.
the information out there.
Thank you very much for stopping by.
Because it's publications like this and podcasts like this that, quite frankly, inform you all out there of what's going on. And so if they didn't exist, our work would really go unnoticed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your work.
Okay.
All right.